Hello, this is Quest 4, and I'm Jan Storm.
And I'm Reverend Rex Bronnenberg.
On last week's show, Dick Larson was our guest, and we had such a wonderful time that we asked him back. We were talking about transmission meditation, and we just forgot about the time, and there was such a wonderful thing to hear something new coming into the field. So we asked Dick back, and he is our guest on this show, and we're going to be talking about the new millennium. Is it New Hope? Thank you, Dick, for being here, and welcome back.
Thanks for having me back.
Yes.
It's wonderful to be back.
And so we're going to talk about the millennium.
Yes, one of the people that I mentioned last week was Benjamin Creme, a man out of London, England, who is an artist and who has been going around the world for the last 25 years, giving talks and teaching people about transmission meditation, and also talking about what we can expect to happen in the near future.
And I think everybody's interested in knowing that. We all read the newspapers with the psychic predictions and earthquakes and floods and presidents and all this stuff, and let's see if we can bring that a little closer to home instead of big events, maybe what's going on as a whole.
It's important that I say this at the outset, that nobody needs to believe what I'm going to say. I just have my information, and I want to share it. And if people believe 10% of it as a possibility, then so be it. That's not my job. My job is simply to share the information. And most of it is things that Benjamin Creme is talking about and that make a lot of sense to me. And I'm firmly convinced. You were talking about the world now, and there are a lot of problems out there. I mean, it doesn't look very pretty right now. There are a lot of homeless people. We see homeless people on the freeway collecting money. We see them sleeping in the parks. In our own country, much less around the world. There are people starving. Every 4.5 seconds, as you and I sit here and speak, someone starves to death, mostly children. Yes, every 4.5 seconds. It's awful. And this is a world with a 10% surplus of food. And we're just not distributing it. It's sitting in these big storage bins because we can't get the right price for it, or London can't get the right price for it, or wherever. And so it's sitting there rotting.
Yeah, and also, though, when we do get it there, then we run into a secondary problem, which is probably even bigger. It's not getting to the right people. The governments that it's going to are keeping the food, and they're not distributing it.
Exactly. Distribution is the problem. That's exactly right. So we have those problems. We have poor medical care around the world. Doctors with Borders respond to emergencies, but they can't do it all. I read just in the paper the other day that some hospitals are closing their emergency rooms because so many people don't have medical insurance, they can't afford it, or they're unemployed and they don't have it, that they're going to emergency rooms just to get their day-to-day medical treatment.
That's right.
And the hospitals can't afford it anymore, and they're going broke. The educational system, it's broken, and nobody knows how to fix it. So there are just unbelievable problems around the world. Little dictators popping up here and there all over the place, and we certainly know about that with the tragedy of 9/11, September 11th, when hundreds of people lives were lost. And so we know very well about the tragedies and the anger and the fighting that's going on around the world.
I think that was the first time it really touched us in a way that we could physically see it, rather than think of it as something that happens far off.
There are a lot of other problems. Money is God right now.
That's right.
Greed is rampant. And the money calls the shots. And so it's hard to find good news, but I want to share with you that there is good news.
Absolutely.
There is good news, but it's hard to find. And if you look closely, you'll find it in small articles in the back of magazines, small articles in the back of newspapers. A wonderful source of good news are websites. Responsible news organizations like IPS News and other international news services have some of these wonderful stories that the media doesn't really know what to do with. You're not going to see it on TV. Lots of things, well, some of them you do see, and then we forget. For example, somebody was mentioning earlier about the Berlin Wall. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, people come with their picks and their hammers, and they go at that wall and they tear that wall down. And they're sitting on top of the wall, and they're looking through holes in the wall, celebrating. And the two Germanys, East and West Germany,
nobody did anything.
Nobody did anything. And yet, over the years, so many people had been killed trying to climb the wall, climb the barbed wire, and they're getting shot down. And yet, This happened. Nobody went to stop it, and now the Germanys are united. East Germany and West Germany. Nobody knew that that was going to happen. People's jaws just dropped when that was on TV.
I remember that. It was quite a shock. It's like, excuse me, did I go to sleep and wake up 10 years later or something? What happened?
And then a man from the Soviet Union named Gorbachev comes over to President Ronald Reagan and says, I've had enough of this. Let's have peace. Let's sign an arms agreement. Let's get rid of the arms race. And we have an unprecedented arms agreement that nobody thought, the anti-ballistic missile treaty that nobody thought would happen. He goes back to the Soviet Union and says, there's not enough individual responsibility around here, let's break this thing up. He presents glasnost, and the Soviet Union disappears.
Overnight again.
Yes, completely unexpected. Now, I call these miracles.
Yeah,
they are miracles.
You don't have to if you don't want to, but that's what I call it.
Well, a miracle is something beyond your understanding, that's all.
That's all.
Yes. South Africa, Nelson Mandela, black man, sitting in prison for 28 years in South Africa. He says God told him to write a letter to President de Klerk. And he laughingly responded. He said, I can't even get the warden of the prison's attention. But he wrote the letter anyway. De Klerk, after the fact, said he got the letter and God told him to set Nelson Mandela free. I'm getting chills as I tell this story. To set Nelson Mandela free. And after 28 years, people even forgot he was alive.
Oh, yeah.
So long.
Of course.
Not only is he set free, but de Klerk declares they get rid of apartheid, one of the worst prejudicial evils in the history of the world. And Nelson Mandela, a black man, is elected president of South Africa.
Isn't that wonderful?
That is a miracle.
That is a miracle.
Out of nowhere.
But you see, our media today, we don't have news. We have sensationalism.
Absolutely.
That's
certainly
what the people want.
10-second sound bites.
That's right. Sensationalism is not necessarily news.
Right.
And I would have to agree with you. There really is a lot more good in the world.
Yes, but we have to look for it because there's so much stress in life right now.
Oh, yes.
And we're too busy to look for it, is what it boils down to.
Yes, we are. In most families, both couples are working just to pay the rent.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a difficult, difficult time, but there is good stuff happening. I've talked about some of the political and social things that are happening. There are also religious and spiritual things happening.
I'd like to stop there and go on to some of those, because that was going to be one of my next questions.
Good.
What is going on in the spiritual and religious world?
Well, there are many unexplained events that the media doesn't know what to do with, so they don't address them. And again, you have to look in all the other places to find these things. There are statues and paintings that bleed real human blood.
That's right.
They've tested it. That's real human blood with the platelets removed so it won't clot. But they've taken these statues, they've done everything to them. They've x-rayed them, they've given them MRIs, anything they can think of to these statues. They can't find the source of the blood, or statues that weep real human tears, or paintings that weep real human tears, or 100% pure olive oil coming from paintings. And they can't find the source of this.
Now,
and people that witness them are being healed.
That's right.
They did find, I know sure you remember the incident in India where all the statues were drinking milk.
Yes.
The specific
statues.
That
was Ganesh, was the name of the statue.
Yeah,
and
it was the elephant's miracle.
They did find that they're now debunking that, because they did find that the statues are so porous that if you hold a teaspoon or whatever of milk to it, it does get inhaled by the porous statue. And it's not really drinking, it's just you can put anything up there. It didn't even have to be milk, it worked with anything.
Well,
but you see,
I don't want to be contentious, but there are many people who will disagree with you because they witnessed bronze statues where the milk disappeared from the spoon.
I'm just putting out plain devil's advocate here.
Stone statues. I've seen video, a friend of mine actually went to a Buddhist temple in Los Angeles and held out the spoon to a stone statue of Ganesh, that kind of elephant-shaped god of the Buddhists, and it disappeared. And this happened worldwide for 4 days. In India, they ran out of milk. You couldn't buy milk in India because everyone was doing this. It was just unbelievable. London shut down. The line was miles long of people wanting to get into the temples and see the statues. It was really an amazing, unexplained event, I think. It was unexplained.